On this episode of the Converse Cowboy, I'm going to revisit the first 4 stops of the tour this season. This will be part 1 of a 2-part recap of the entire season. I want to reflect on some of the moments that stood out to me and what resonated most about the trip, as well as to give you guys some insights as to what the journey was like for me. In the performance horse world, people who compete at an elite level don't usually climb to the top quickly. Like most achievements in life, it takes years of dedication, a strong work ethic, and the right mindset to stick with the process and grind it out. As a former college athlete, I know this to be true, and I'd add that through it all, you have to genuinely love what you're doing. My passion for horses and my competitive nature makes me hungry for answers. So I've set out to discover the psychology behind success stories living the Western lifestyle, to expand my awareness and apply what I've learned in my own life. This journey of discovery will be uncomfortable for me, but the reward will be unmeasurable. I'm Mike Roberts, and this is the Converse Cowboy. Presented by Carrie Kelly Bits and Spurs and Schaefer Outfitter. So thinking back, going back to, when was that, July-ish? We're making our way to Glen Rose, Texas. And so the Converse Cowboy started as a podcast, and I brought on some guys with Plugged In Creative to take it to another level, I guess you could say. I don't even know what the hell you call this thing at this point, like a pod show. But going into it, I rented an RV, and we hit the road for 7 days, really not knowing what to expect. Like, I had an idea of what was to come, but really just open to whatever's to come and just kind of pivot. And there were many bumps along the way, you know, overcoming the challenges of just life on the road for 7 days and logistically lining everybody up and timing. And I mean, hell, we were in West Texas, so we were going 300, 400, 500 miles every day. The people that I sat down with, I really want to express my gratitude for them and for their time. I thought every single interview was a great learning experience for me. It's something that I gained a lot of growth from. And so starting out, we went with Dusty Whitford down in Glen Rose, Texas, you know, and Dusty's ex-military and has his own stories, has his own journey, and as we all do, has been through some challenges. I mean, hell, the guy, if you saw the interview, he lived in his truck for almost 2 years and really grinded it out. And now to see where he's at today, I talked to him just last week, and he's doing some really cool things, Horse Pro TV, and he's got a barn full of horses now, and he's really just doing what he loves to do. And so it's cool to reflect back. It's cool to go back and watch that interview. Hell, I was watching it last week as a fan. Like, I was watching it, and I'm writing notes down about stuff that he said, you know, that may not have hit me before, but it resonated with me this time. Shit, man, that's what this thing's about, is like documenting my journey, but also documenting some of the things that I've learned along the way, and something that I can go back to and other people can go back to. So as I mentioned, Dusty's ex-military, and, you know, this show is all about mindset and understanding everybody that I sit down with. It's about understanding their why. And so for Dusty Whitford, his why is to give back to those folks that may be coming out of the military. They definitely, I feel like, after sitting down with him and just having friends that are in the military, they don't come out of service the same as they went into service mentally. And so Dusty wants to provide an outlet for those guys, you know, and through the relationship with horses. And so he's currently doing that now. And when I asked him, what would you do if you had enough money to not have to work again? And that was the thing that he said he wanted to do, to be able to give back. So let's take a listen to what Dusty has to say.
I want to give veterans a place where they can just find purpose. Because you get out of the military, it's the same thing getting out of college. And every death that I know of personally in the military is suicide. I don't know anybody, I have no friends, I've lost no friends in combat, from combat. It's all suicide. And it is always the same thing. It's a lack of purpose, and things go downhill, and the wife leaves, and the job leaves, and the truck leaves, and you're on the street, and then they're dead. And it's just purpose. You know, and the horses can provide that. And then the other side of it is that I would love to take young men that are headed So that's the military. So those are coming out. I want to get them. I want to get somebody before they go in. So I want to find young men that are heading towards the juvenile system and intercept them and give them a place for the same thing to work.
Yeah.
You know, because 99% of those kids don't have dads.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's the problem. That's the problem. That's why they're there.
Yeah.
They don't have dads. 99% of them.
Yeah.
And if we can intercept, one, I'd love to do more than that.
Yeah.
But if we could intercept one kid, it'd be a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you talked about those folks coming out of the military, or just mental health in general, you know, is a big issue. I don't know the statistics right now, but I did read a Gallup poll from 2016 that showed that in the world, 87% of people are unhappy. You know, and I think it goes back to your point. They don't know what their purpose is, you know, and I think there's a lot of people, and that's really my whole goal in this whole thing, so for me, I always thought it was money. Always had an idea that if I got to this destination, then I'll be happy, you know.
Right.
So I do all the things. I go down the list. I make the money. I marry the pretty girl, and I've got all the shit. And then I'm at the top, and I'm looking around like, well, now what?
Yeah.
I still hadn't found my purpose, really, you know. So money's not the answer. Rule one, in case anybody's wondering, that's not going to buy you happiness. It can buy you shit that you enjoy and can create an experience. But I feel like there's so many people out there that are looking, that are hunting for their purpose. They may be scared to admit it, that that's what they're looking for. I know I was. It was kind of an ego thing, you know. But how did you know? Like, when did you know, and how did you know that this is your purpose, what you're doing right now?
When I saw it transform in just little small ways. Like, I want to do big things, but you can still find the little small ones, and you can see how these horses can transform me, you know, and they can transform other people, you know, and you met my friends and they're helping transform them, right? And so when you see that, if you're paying attention, you can see a whole lot of purpose available to you that you can grab hold of if you want, if you're willing. Yeah.
When did that come to you? Like, when did you?
Just over time, it didn't come to me, you know.
Yeah.
It didn't come to me.
Yeah.
You know, it's just developed, and it's still not, you know, it's still not developed, because it'll never be developed. You know,
I think
it'll come to me until the day I die, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know.
And it will constantly evolve. For whatever crazy reason, I was of the mindset that one day it was just going to happen, and I knew exactly what I was going to do.
This is happy.
And I was just always let down, you know. I was like, why didn't it come yet, you know? But you're right. It's like, okay, well, I'm interested in this. I'll try that. Right. And that leads to this, and this leads to.
Right. And everybody talks about, you can't be destination, location focused. That's just a fucking meme on Facebook. Like, what does that even mean? Like, cool, you said it. Now what? Like, what are the tangible? Like, what do I do? Like, the path. It's just consistency. It's a whole bunch of. It's consistently getting up and developing and pursuing and pursuing and pursuing and pursuing. It's a constant pursuit.
That's it. So as I was sitting at home watching Dusty's interview last week, the thing that really stood out to me was the part when he talks about delivering value. Like, when you get stuck in life, or when challenges come up, obstacles come up, and you're trying to figure this thing out, the mindset doesn't need to be, I need to get more money, I need to get more customers. It needs to be, where can I deliver value? And man, that really hit me. Like, I remember writing that down after the interview, and I don't know, my ADD may have kicked in. I somewhat forgot about that part of the interview, but it was a good reminder, and it's something that I think I need. For me, again, this is my perception of it, but like, when I focus on delivering value to others, it allows me to live as my highest self and really focus on what's important and not get bogged down in the worry and the fears and the bullshit stories that we make up. So let's come back to Dusty and see what he has to say about providing value. Yeah, that's it. And I was watching something the other day, and they talk about consistency over intensity. You know, how many New Year's resolutions do we see that everybody's gung-ho in January, February, March, April? That shit just keeps going down. Yeah. So that's something I've really taken is the consistency. If I can just do these small things every day,
Yep.
and then the compound effect is going to take over at some point,
Yep.
and then it just starts to snowball, you know.
Yep.
And so I'm starting to feel that, like with the show Converse Cowboy, it's like very slow, and it's starting to gain momentum, but it's all about just the process of doing the stuff every day. And so I relate that back to horses, right?
Yep.
So the 2-year-old that you break every day,
Yeah, you want a little bit.
1%,
You want
really.
a little bit.
I mean,
You
that's
want a
it.
little bit, and it's hard because I screw that up all the time. Everybody does. I don't care who you are. The top guys at the top of the field screw that up every day. You always want a little bit more. And I talked about that in the video recently about how, especially in cutting, when we have a cow in front of us, and you can relate it to life. And people said that in the comments. They said, "Boy, you can relate this to life. You can relate this to sports. We work the cow in front of the horse in front of the cow. Work, and we get them right into the sweet spot." And you're like, "Ooh, there it is. Work left, right, stop, draw," and you can work your way right out of the sweet spot, little bit. Work in the sweet spot and quit them in the sweet
Know when to
spot.
quit.
Quit in the sweet spot. Yeah, and I've worked my way out of the sweet spot 100 times. And you start your day on the horse, and they're a C minus, and you work all the way up to a B plus. But hey, that's not an A minus, is it? You work all the way to a B plus, and you keep working, and you keep working, and you keep grinding, and you're down to a D minus. Then you work all the way up, and you're struggling, they're sweating, and it's terrible, and you work up to a C plus, and you quit, and you're like, whew, got them to a C plus. And you're like, yeah, well, you just were at a B plus, you know?
Yeah.
Dumbass?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many times do we do that in our own life, though? You know, where
All the time.
as a competitive person, I'm sure you're no different. Like, we have these expectations, and I am my own worst critic, you know. And so that's something that I've learned throughout this journey is don't judge it based on a result or an outcome, because that shit is out of your control, really. Especially when we're talking about cattle and horses, something with another mind.
Yep.
Versus just, and it sounds so woo-woo or cliche, whatever, just do your best. But really, that's all you can fucking do.
Yes.
Is you know, like, you have to be very honest with yourself and be aligned with what it is that you want to do. But you know, if you did your best today and tomorrow and the next day, be okay with it.
Yeah.
You know?
There's all there is pursuit and controllables. And if you're focusing on the uncontrollables, which is the result,
Yeah.
you're toast.
Yeah.
You know? You're
So
toast.
I read a lot of Stoic philosophy, and that really Stoicism 101 is control what you can control and don't worry about anything else. Let all that stuff go. So
That's it.
how does that relate? I know last night we were talking about some of the, you know, you had some clients that pulled some horses because of COVID-19.
Yep.
And we talked about the power of the mind and how stuff will just, it happens the way it's supposed to happen. I read a quote from a book called The Artist's Way, and it says, leap and the net will appear.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about that, how you just trust the process and let it be what it'll be?
There's a controllable that's available to you in just trusting the process. And that is, I think, and we do it with our training business and we do it with the horse pro business, I firmly believe that if your sole focus in business is value, delivering value, you will have no problems in business at all. That's it. If that's your entire focus is value, then you'll have no problems. And I'm starting to believe myself a little bit because I'm seeing that take over and actually happen, right? So yeah, we had the same, drop down in horses that I'm sure everybody has seen. Mm-hmm. People losing their jobs during this. We're down 6, 7, 8 horses have left probably from it directly, and the other day we got like $60-something in checking, and there's no savings, and then just one after another, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they just build right back up.
Yeah.
But my focus wasn't, oh shit. My focus is different now than it used to be. My focus wasn't, oh shit. My focus is, let's deliver some more value. Whenever it gets rough, I try to think about what can I do, not to bring in new customers. What can I do this must mean that I'm not delivering something. So you can go you can go fight from your knees, or you can go fight from your feet.
Mm-hmm. So the next stop, we went to see Buster Frierson. So Buster Frierson is a guy who is very well respected in the ranch horse world, in the ranch rodeo world. He's been doing this a long time, and I am very grateful to be able to sit down with him and really tap into his mindset, to hear the routines that he's implemented in his life. As with everybody, he's been through some challenges, some ups and downs, and the one thing he talks about is his mindset and the focus that he puts on his mindset and the practices that he does daily to really tap into his highest self, to slow his mind down and to really be able to comprehend how and why he's thinking the way he is. And so what's really cool is the messages that I received after Buster's interview came out. There's a lot of cowboys reaching out that were grateful to hear somebody like Buster saying those things, using the words like meditation, him talking about reading books, the things that you typically don't associate, like hardcore cowboy. I mean, Buster, he's a big dude, you know. He's definitely the stereotypical cowboy, right? Like big, doesn't mind getting his hands dirty, but at the same time, he's very cerebral and really in tune with his mindset. And so I know a lot of folks got a lot out of that interview. So take a listen. Let's check out what Buster has to say.
Whatever it is, I've come to realize in growing older that it is consistency. If I don't go rope that dummy, 100 times every other day, then, I'm like, well, I don't need to rope the dummy. I caught it 115 times in a row, today, and I don't rope it for 6 weeks. Well, then I go to a rodeo and I run across the line and stick it around one of them's eyes, It's like, why'd I do that,
Right.
And, well, it's because you hadn't been practicing. Yeah. And, a lot of guys, the older they get a little better in their profession or what they do in their hobbies, and so they kind of quit that practice, the basics. Mm-hmm. And it always goes back to the basics, whether it's training a horse, whether it's training a person in football, basketball. The coach always told me when I was playing football, just perform the basics. Everything else will follow after that.
Right.
And so it's that way I implement that in my life, just do the basic things, and that extra stuff will come because of you can do the basics to an elite level.
That's right. And yeah, I mean, so physically muscle memory, but also what that's doing is mentally.
Right.
It's creating confidence.
You bet.
You put in the time. You woke up early, or you bet. Put in the time at the gym.
That self-discipline, that, when it's 115 degrees and it's 40% humidity around here, at 5:30, get done doing your chores and doing your work, and I pick up a rope and go out there and rope the dummy until I'm sweated through my shirt. Yeah. And hang it up. My son's like, why you rope that? I'm like, because just like you need to practice. I need to practice. You need to stay sharp, and it's just self-discipline, whether it's getting up in the morning and meditating. And that's another thing that I've done in the last 5 years is I get up in the morning and meditate for 30 minutes. And that kind of sounds goofy in the cowboy world, and it did to me, but I got to listening to a self-discipline book, and, just the little things. Make your bed in the morning. Get up in the morning, make your bed. Get up in the morning and meditate. Get up in the morning and learn how to breathe. And, I do some jiu-jitsu and I do some boxing and do some stuff like that I've implemented into my life that have helped me better my life, make me feel better physically, mentally, emotionally, everything that comes along with that, and it's like, oh, hell, what does meditation do? Well, I mean, you slow everything down and you figure out how to breathe, and you go back to the basics where it's just everything's clear, everything's calm, you're learning how to breathe, and when you get in a stressful situation, it's just automatic.
The foundation's there. Yeah. It's very cool to hear you say that. I never, or not want to say never, but you're right. In the cowboy world, that's not normal, right? Normal, whatever that is. So I do the same thing. Like I meditate. Yeah. Making your bed. Morning routine is very important to me because that's easy. And I don't like 4 Seasons make my bed.
No,
you know what I mean?
It's pull the blankets up, put the pillows.
A simple task. It's very achievable. Boom, I've done that.
Right on.
And then I go on to coffee. But meditation, yes, people are like, yeah, why meditate? Well, my goal is not to become the best meditator that I can be, but the goal is to have peace of mind. Now I'm consciously thinking. I'm not going through life on autopilot based on how I was socially conditioned to live my life as a child, you know, because really, if you want to get down to it, the majority of people, and even today, like the way we react to things is based off of something we had that was imprinted on us as children.
You bet.
And so, yes, focusing on the breath, you know, if you're in traffic, you see these people getting crazy, flipping you off, you know, it's like, all right, whatever, you know, and then I go back to my day, but it's like, before I would have reacted to that. And so I read a lot of Stoic philosophy, and Stoicism 101 is control what you can control, you know, and it's like, can I control it? No, I don't worry about it.
There you go.
So again, this show is about mindset. It's about growth. And to me, the one thing that I've learned is I personally grow the most when I'm open, when I'm vulnerable. And so I thought it was really cool that Buster opened up and really shared his truth as to how he got to where he is today. You know, I've talked about it before. We don't set goals in life and it's a linear path. You know, success kind of looks something like this right here. And so that was really cool to hear Buster's story, you know, when he talks about having an awakening moment. So let's take a listen and see what Buster has to say. And if you haven't seen this interview, I highly recommend going back and checking out the full thing. You can check it out on YouTube or conversecowboy.com.
You know, it was a failure of mine when I was drinking that I drank too much. And I don't have anything against drinking by any means. I mean, some people handle it very well. Some people don't handle it very well. I was one of those that didn't handle it very well. And, you know, so it took me a period of time to figure out a set of situations, you know, that like we talked about last night, I got in trouble and was always in some sort of conundrum because of my drinking. And once I figured out that and was accountable, that it wasn't anybody else's fault, that it was my doing, my creating all the problems. Once I figured that out and quit that and told myself I was going to quit that, it changed my life. I mean, like completely 180 degree, like, here we go, let's do something else. Mm-hmm. You know, let's put this effort into something that's good. And, you know, then when I started doing that, I started riding my horses better. I started cowboying a little more. I started figuring out how to do things without being foggy.
Right.
And, you know, my life changed for the better for me and for everybody that was involved in my life, you know. And so it was one of those deals that was like aha moment, like, wow, I can do this, and I can actually do this better without drinking, you know. And so that was probably a problem that turned into a good thing about my life, you know. And I'm one of those guys where when I decide to do something, I'm going to go 120% all in. Let's do it, and let's see how far we can take it, whether it's good or whether it's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, if you choose the wrong side of it, well, then it takes, you know, I still put that effort in there. And that 120% bad or 120% good, well, it's just like, how the hell you want to live your life, you know? I mean, you want to have problems your whole life, or do you want to just go ahead and, you're still going to have problems, no doubt about it, but they're not the same situational problems as you have, you know, just on everyday life. So
yeah,
that's probably one of my biggest things, that once I became accountable for myself and my actions, and I was honest with myself and figured out that I caused everything, that it wasn't your fault, it wasn't the cop's fault, it wasn't the lady's fault, it was, you know, it was my fault. You know, it changed my life, and, you know, it probably saved my life, to be real honest with you.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of one of my aha moments, where I opened my eyes and saw a little further than just through the windshield. I could see over the hill, you know, and like, man, I better get this shit together, or I'm not going to get over the hill.
So as I said in the beginning of this, you know, we didn't really know what to expect going into this week, but we were down for whatever and really just willing to pivot as things came up. So between the Dusty Whitford and the Buster Frierson interview, we stopped in at Carrie Kelly's place there in Weatherford, Texas. And it was really cool to sit down with Carrie. It was unexpected. Didn't know he was going to be in the store, but really glad to have crossed paths with Carrie and to really hear his story and see his shop. You know, I know he doesn't open his doors like that to many people, so for that I'm grateful. To get a look behind the curtain to see what goes into the magic of Carrie Kelly's bits and spurs. So y'all check out this episode as he tours us through his shop. So how long have you been doing this now?
Since '93.
That's a long time. And I asked that question specifically because I want to know how long did it take you to dial this in, like to the system that you have now?
Yeah, I haven't got it dialed in yet.
Still working on it, right? Yeah. I got you.
Yeah,
and I think it's always like that. You know, whatever you do, you always fine tune it. But
yeah, it moves a little easier than it used to. You know, just because you learn from experience and you learn to use ingenuity. You know, you better make that your friend and to get things done.
So I'm very grateful for the relationship that has developed out of bumping into Carrie, you know, while we were over in Weatherford, Texas. And to my surprise, he was as we were in his shop, he was in the process of building me some custom spurs that he gifted to me a couple of weeks after the show. To see the work that went into those spurs is really cool, but what was even cooler than that was to see him carving the wheat stem in that bit in the shank while we were there. And you can tell he's dedicated his life to his craft and to mastering that craft. And as with anybody that is doing what they do at that level, it's taken years, it's taken decades to get to that level of mastery. And so it was really cool to be able to see that in person. Do you nerd out on tools? Different tools?
What's that?
Do you nerd out on different tools to use?
You know I do, and I'm probably behind the times. You know, like this is a new machine, but they have different ones now and different engravers. It's the same stuff I've been using since 1993.
Really?
There's probably better ways. I've never been to school. I've never learned under anybody, and that's why I'm still stuck doing it the same way.
Yeah. As a business owner myself, as Carrie continued to tour us through his shop, he told a joke that I thought was pretty funny and resonated with me. So this show is all about mindset and performance and all that and overcoming challenges. I'm curious, throughout this whole thing since '93, was there ever a time when you were like, man, what the hell am I doing? Like I could be doing this or I could be doing that. Did you ever think about just throwing in the towel? And
You know, I never did, because I mean, even back when I was just a one-man show, it was like, you know, it's rewarding to build something. Not necessarily that right there, but to put the silver and customize it for you. I build you something and I did this and this is what you ordered.
It's tangible, you can see
it.
it.
They go, hey, just do what you do on there and build it. It's very rewarding, so I've never had any inkling to do anything else. You know, it's more and more, it's like a job, you know, because we're just grinding it out every day and trying to fill orders. And for me, and probably like you, I don't think I could work for anyone, you know.
No, not
so
now.
that's part of it too. That's half the battle.
Yeah.
And you know, when you work for yourself, you don't even have to work half the day. It's just which 12 hours you want.
I've never heard it said that way. I like the shit out of it. So it definitely resonated. The joke that Carrie told is something that I have stolen and used a number of times since then. And but he's right though, and there's a lot of truth into what he says. Hang on, dude. Hey, Steven. But yeah, they haven't signed off, or I just sent them the quote and they haven't agreed or anything like that yet. So no, I'll always get a quote from you and then I'll say, yes, let's order those, you know. But again, I apologize for the confusion. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks, man. I knew it too. Like I meant to text that guy and say, hey, that's just a quote. Okay, Andy. So Carrie mentions like having to work for somebody else. Like there's no way that he could do that right now. And I agree 100%. There's no way. One, I'm probably a terrible employee for somebody else because I do shit my way and I have my own routines and systems that work for me. And yeah, like I was in pharmaceutical sales in the corporate world, and there's nothing about me that's corporate. And so I am not a good employee when it comes to that, but I get shit done and I'm willing to put in the time. And so that's why I really enjoy it. I really like the joke. I really like the joke that he said, and it resonated with me a lot. So on the next stop, we visit with Dusty Burson up in Dixon Creek, the 4-6s at Dixon Creek. And Dusty's ranch manager up there. This one was a little bit different for me because I knew Dusty going into this interview, whereas the other guys on the trip I was really getting to know, throughout the interview. But with Dusty, he is a well-respected guy in the ranch horse world, a damn good horse trainer, damn good cowboy, and somebody I honestly look up to and will reach out from time to time for advice when it comes to training horses. So the one thing that interests me and also is somewhat frustrating to me at times is the psychology of a horse, and that is the foundation of horse training, I think. And Dusty is very in tune with how a horse's mind works. He's tapped into what it's thinking and what he needs to do to get a certain result. And so take a listen as he shares some of the stuff that he's learned throughout the years.
And we've all had horses that are tougher minded and tougher to get them to get with you, and to me, miles and just days and not hours of riding them and trying to do this, but just prowling on them or gathering a pasture or something that you can kind of get in their mind to where one day it's just like a switch. They go to kind of from fighting you're kind of the enemy to they just want to get with you, and you can just tell they're willing. But I don't think you can. I think some horses you can push that on, but I do think there's some that you can't push it on. You gotta let their mind get ready for that. Versus just being able to mash it on them. And some horses you can. Like I said, some of them the first ride you can go to asking a lot more, but others, it just more miles and time on them. A lot of times I think we talked about pressure on horses, and I think a lot of patience and stuff at least for me, came later. So as far as training, I think the older, more mature you get, the more you realize to kind of take yourself out of the situation and see what the problem is. That way you can fix it versus just kind of getting locked in on a problem, and being able to kind of step back in anything in life or training horses, either one, being able to kind of take a step back and take a breather and slow down. When you're young, you think it's got to happen now and don't know why, and sometimes you kind of get tunnel vision and you're looking at something like that instead of thinking big picture, and it's just like if you're wanting to pin a bull that doesn't want to go to the gate over there, if you can kind of just bend him over there, instead of just, you don't have to. And I think training horses is the same way. Some horses, if you may not get what you want today, but as long as you're working towards that end goal, instead of thinking you got to have it all right now.
So there seems to be a consistent theme that keeps coming to mind right now, and Dusty mentions it. Sorry, I almost fell off my stool. Dusty mentions it like nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And so we never know things that we go through in life, whether it's good, whether we perceive it as good or bad. We don't know what that leads to. We're all on this journey of life, and 2 years from now, 3, 4, 5 years from now, we may look back and realize why something had to happen. And so take a listen as Dusty shares his story about advancing through his career with the sixes and not knowing really why certain things were happening or if it was the right move or not, but really just trusting what he believes in, God, and the power of prayer.
When I first went to the ranch down there, I wanted to be on the cow side of the ranch, but there wasn't anything open, so I just thought, well, that'd be a way to ease me into it. Initially I just was riding colts and I love starting colts. That's one of my favorite things in the world to do. The first 15 rides on one, or 5 rides even is one of my favorite things to do on a horse. But
Do you know how many you've started?
no, sure, I wish I did. I wish I did.
Do you
But
think it's in the thousands?
I bet it may not be 1,000, but I bet it's getting close to it. I bet it ain't 1,000.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, we prayed about it a bunch and just trying to decide what was the best thing for us, because you know, we didn't have to go. You know, that was the hard thing about it to me, was I could see me being happy training horses and still competing and showing, and I could see myself being happy, you know, going to that camp. And I think bottom line, it was just, you know, that growing up, that's what I wanted to do, was be a cowboy, you know, on the cow side more than a horse trainer. And so deep down, you know, that's what I wanted. But it was hard not to, you know, see the bright lights and the glory of it, because, you know, a camp, there's not much glamorous about it other than just you're out there by yourself. And I mean, and it's a great place to raise a family and kids, and you're out there all alone. Nobody's around, and just day in, day out, it's just you know. And so that getting to slow down was appealing. You know, that's kind of, I said you was going to miss the road and the lights and everything, but on the other hand, it's nice sometimes to be out there by yourself. And so I think deep down it was just that I just had a longing to be a cowboy and not a horse trainer, you know.
Yeah.
But, and like I said, you know, I was there for about 3 years at South Camp at Sixes, and then this opportunity came out, and there I was again, you know, another crossroads of because we were happy there, you know. I wanted to spend the rest of my life down there, but heck, you never know what the Lord's going to bring up and where He'll take you. So I definitely do think He has a plan, and for everybody, you know, for horses and for us, and if you'll seek Him and look to Him, I think He'll put you where you need to be. So.
Yeah. So as I reflect back on this tour, on this season 2 of the Converse Cowboy, a lot of things come to mind. You know, it's like, so grateful for this opportunity, for this platform, for the experiences that I've had, for the people that I've gotten to meet. It's like going into it, even from the beginning of the year till now, like I had an idea of what to expect, but now as this thing starts to grow and like people are resonating with what this message is, like I get the DMs and I get the comments, and it's really cool to see. But it's also like the growth that I'm getting from this. It doesn't come easily, right? Like I still question now that I've had some whatever you call success. Like I've had some people follow along and the message is resonating. Well, now it's like I have this expectation of myself. I have an expectation of the show, and I guess that's good, or it can be good, it can be bad, I don't know. But it's like that's the next level. Like to get to the next level, it's overcoming the challenge. It's overcoming the challenge of setting those expectations. And that may sound weird. It may not make sense at all. Yeah, to give you guys an idea, like starting this show, like there was a lot of self-doubt, a lot of negative chatter as to why this wouldn't work, or nobody gives a shit, or I'm the only one living this lifestyle, you know, like really focused into mindset, but also really into the cowboy world and horses. And I'm finding out that I was not right about any of it. You know, like there are a lot of people that reach out and say that this story or this message resonates with them, and they thank me for really just being open and vulnerable. And so for me, that's where the growth comes. I tell you that to say this. So like if there's something on your mind or something on your heart that you really want to do, but maybe fear or procrastination has gotten in the way, I would highly recommend just leaning into it and doing the next step. You know, that's kind of that is the advice somebody gave me. What's the next step to get started? Instead of thinking of it as this big whole scary thing, you focus in on just staying consistent, doing the next step. And I know I don't mean to oversimplify the process of doing something, but it really can be that simple, you know, just do the next step. And with that is going to come challenges. It's going to come, the negative self-chatter is going to start, which is going to induce fear and procrastination. But I really encourage you to try to have a clear state of mind, and every single day just stay consistent. So I would say consistency over intensity. So Jim Carrey has a quote, and I think he says it best. You can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well take a chance in doing what you love. I hope you guys enjoyed part 1 of this season recap as much as I did. I really enjoyed going back and rewatching these things and kind of reliving them in a way. So if you haven't seen all of these, they're still available. They're on YouTube. Search The Converse Cowboy, or you can go to the website, conversecowboy.com. So until next time, stay grateful, and remember, the journey is the destination.